Reena, we can't hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, Parul, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Then we'll start this parallel session E. Welcome to all of you who are attending this parallel sessions. All of us have now heard Minister Vestre, Espen Barth Eide, Mr. Gadkari, Shri Ravi Shankar, and other prominent speakers talking about their plans, their ambitions, the desire and dreams of a greener and better future. Now we will continue with the parallel session, End Users, Hydrogen Opportunities in the Energy System. As many said downstairs, India has the scale, Norway has skills, adding scope and speed to a greener and better future. The need for an energy transition is obvious, and green hydrogen is key to undertaking that transition. From the hydrogen user perspective, there is an understanding now that a pure battery electric vehicle is not an optimal solution to solve all the needs in the market. So now we have an esteemed panel of speakers who will share their business cases, and we will talk about the end user perspective. Please allow me to introduce you to our first panelist, Mr. Parul Soni. Parul will talk on responsible consumers and industry, generating market demand. Parul Soni is founder of Global Managing Partner of Think Through Consulting. He's a consummate professional with over 25 years experience and expertise in international investments, bilateral and multilateral trade. He has worked across borders. He has been part of regional trade agreements and negotiations at national and international level. Prior to launching Think Through Consulting, Parul was global partner at EY and KPMG. Welcome so much, Parul Soni. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Reena. I'm sorry that I had to cancel my trip to Bergen. I was looking forward. Everything was booked. And I was very keen to meet the panelists, fellow panelists, and also the participants of this workshop. I'm really excited because of many reasons, not because it's a conference on hydrogen, but I also see that we are putting the right step forwards to see how we will be changing the world and also stopping Earth being warmer than 1.5 degrees as such. You know that I'm very passionate about the whole, the way a lot of leaders are now working towards mitigating the risk and also looking at how we will be financing on various issues which will mitigate the risk of global warming. So what I will do is I will make a presentation on this topic, which is more to talk about responsible consumers and industry. My ideas are more in looking at from the global perspective, and then also thinking that how we can collaborate between India and Norway, and bringing this opportunity to see that larger Indian ecosystem generating demand, and thinking about how we can look at cleaner hydrogen, and also how we will be generating this entire thinking of it. So now, if you look at and I will take it very, I'm saying from basics, because sometimes we miss the basics, and we have a problem understanding in the later stage. Reason being that when we don't understand the basics, it will be difficult for us to understand the advanced stage of life. As you know, there are various ways of generating hydrogen, and I will not go into the deeper to say that what is gray hydrogen, blue hydrogen, green hydrogen, and turquoise hydrogen, and other thing. But the thinking is our total concentration today is on green hydrogen. And why we are talking about green hydrogen? Because this will be generated with the whole looking at renewable energy. When we are looking at all this, my feeling is India, if you look at under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, by 2045, 45% of our energy needs would be renewable. And from that perspective, I'm excited also to share with the audience and also share with the world that we are embarking into the journey which will be path breaking for our country as such. Looking at this whole thinking, I've been watching various presentations and the speeches of various of our inaugural speakers talking about why hydrogen, how hydrogen will change. But I feel the most important point is hydrogen is a dependable fuel. The only thing which we have to really work on that how we will make it more secure. And the other is that if people and our users, end users, understand the safety concerns around the entire thinking of it. We are very optimistic about it. And also governments in various parts of the world, there are 17 governments, including European Union, have signed agreement on the strategies which will be bringing hydrogen to their country and working towards it. If you look at the potential now, that the potential of generating hydrogen, there is immense potential to create hydrogen here. Now, coming to the whole global index as such, as I said, 17 countries, including EU, have released hydrogen strategies. So we need money, and that's what we have to really look at from the access to capital perspective. There is a huge, I can say, big market around this. And there is a big landscape which is available to see how we have to work on this entire thinking of manufacturing, creating hydrogen, keeping a storage, and then with that storage, also reducing emission. And this is the only way we can change the way we are looking at from the climate warming perspective. And I want to urge my colleagues, my fellow participants, and also my panelists here to see that, this is what we have to work together and create a global good. And this can be an alternative fuel, and this can save the planet. One is California, Japan, and Germany is really working towards this to see how, they can bring. Today, there's in the newspaper, I read that California is banning, cars which are on gas. So these are all positive moves on this. The most important agreement was basically the Paris Agreement, because that was the time when a lot of governments came together and spoke about it on COP26 in Glasgow, where they emphasized on the whole practice to say how we will be achieving net zero and the emission as such from that perspective. Then looking at from this entire thinking, India came forward and we created the National Hydrogen Energy Mission, which is, through our international partnerships and looking at how we will be looking at from the policy and regulatory landscape as such. Our Ministry of Power recently unveiled the first part in India's much awaited green hydrogen policy in February 2022. So if you look at from a global perspective, the national perspective, and also the regional perspective, because India is a subcontinent, and when India progresses, in India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, entire subcontinent, which is BBINSA, which is Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Afghanistan, we all progress. And that's the progress which I'm looking at when we are talking about hydrogen. If you look at investment in India, there is, in the inaugural speech also, we had Shri Ravi Shankar ji spoke about that, Mr. Adani, Ambani ji, and everyone is bringing this entire effort to invest in hydrogen. So if you look at from the public sector undertaking or a private sector undertaking, there has been huge push on hydrogen. And this is where we are talking about NHPC, Gas Authority of India, Larsen and Toubro, Adani Power, and many other institutions which are basically working on it. Currently, hydrogen use in transport is limited to bus pilots that run on thiane, a blend which is 16% hydrogen and CNG. And this is what is happening now. I think the move has to be that how we will move from CNG led hydrogen to basically not mixed use to single use, as we are talking about from this perspective. India has a goal of 175 gigawatt of installed capacity. And but it all depends on today, the cost of hydrogen and what will be the cost by 2030. Then only this whole chain will, the whole value chain, or you can say the market can evolve and market can respond very well. Because everyone knows that we need energy for not only powering our engines, powering our houses, electricity, and many other things as such. So we have to really work towards creating that ecosystem, creating that market linkages, and creating that value chain, which will bring that kind of change. But I'm personally really excited, and we are doing a lot of consulting work on this topic, in not only in India but across this region, including now in UAE and Singapore. So the thinking is that you, as a firm, like, think through. We are an ecosystem which we are helping lot of startups to see how they can think from a bigger perspective, larger perspective, and bring that kind of change. So as personally, I feel that there is a need to make influencer model where we influence, but the influencer model has to be that how the change will happen and how this change will affect millions, or you can say billions of people as such. We're talking about maritime, we are talking about trains, road freight, aviation, powering the steel sector, which is basically the metals and metallurgy. Then we are talking about cement, because if you look at metal and metallurgy and cement, they are the biggest, emitters of CO2. So if we can bring use case in this, I think there will be huge mandate on this. When you're talking about now demand, hydrogen demand, definitely you look at from the scenario perspective, there is a demand. In India also, there is a lot of collaboration which is happening. If you look at from a perspective where India also created the International Solar Alliance, I think we are in the right path, and India produces the cheapest solar energy in the world. So these are attractiveness, I can say, and attractive ways which are really important for our future. And I am personally, I am feeling, and as a firm, which we are working as a consulting firm, providing, our consulting services on sustainability, climate change, ESG, and also on various aspects which are mitigating the risk of global warming. I'm personally liable to say that, I'm really committed, and I feel that this is a really dependable fuel for the future, and we have to invest in this, and then only there will be a change which we can look at from the global warming perspective, and we can stop, Earth warming to 1.5%, which is, I feel, is a target for all of us in the medium term. Long term, yes, we have to work towards on a cooler Earth to see that, what we can do through reducing the carbon emission, and this is what the right way to look at. To conclude, I think we are talking about renewable energy sources, transition readiness, and that's what we have to do towards this entire thinking of. So now, from the conclusion perspective, while green hydrogen offers significant climate benefit, it is currently emerging as industry and policy. With industry and policy support, it needs an ecosystem, and it also needs, more capacity in terms of storage, use case, and also bringing the entire possibility of creating, more exemplary work, and also work which will be bringing that effort as such. So pillars from decarbonizing global energy system, energy efficiency, behavior change, renewable energy, and hydrogen. I know a time when CNG came into India, not many people used to take that. But because of price difference, safer use, and a good utility as such. From the vehicle perspective, it has become a big, I can say, a use case in India. And that's why I see, if we can collaborate with not only with Norway, from around the world, we can create an ecosystem. But only one thing I've been thinking from last few days, that we are talking about emerging markets, India and Nordics and other countries collaborating. What will happen to my brothers and sisters of Africa? So I think in this perspective, we have to also see that if India succeeds, we will also bring success for Africa. So this is what my initial views as such, and the thinking for it. I feel India is a very big, use case with 1.4 billion people, and as we will be moving, and also with the population, which as we will be exceeding on in with China. I think if India can bring that kind of impactful change, I think we can bring this entire worldwide change and express to see how impact will come globally. So thank you, Reena, for giving me this opportunity, and also to my fellow participants, thank you. I'm always available on my contact details, also on my phone. Most welcome. And if you are traveling to India, be my guest. I will be happy to host you. And if I come to Norway, Reena and I both are really looking forward to meeting you and taking the collaboration forward. Thank you so much, Reena.
Much, Parul, for an insightful presentation on the consumers and the industry in India. And I think you're absolutely right. If India succeeds, we can also bring along our brothers and sisters in Africa and other continents. Now, let's move on to our second speaker today. His name is Sanjay Sharma. Sanjay will talk on management of life cycle impacts associated with green hydrogen supply chain. Sanjay, please come up to the stage. Would you like to control your presentation, or should Bernard control it for you?
We need to log in. You may wait.
We need to log in.
We need to log in.
I think,
Good afternoon, everyone.
I think you should be using the microphone. I will present you, Sanjay. Please allow me to present Sanjay. Please allow me to present Sanjay. Sanjay is founder of EcoFav, a leading climate and change sustainability consulting company based in India. Today, EcoFav is playing a major role in sustainable development of more than 15 gigawatt renewable energy projects, a natural gas distribution network of more than 280,000 square kilometers, an area approximately of the size of Italy. We are very eager to listen to you, Sanjay.
Thank you very much, Reena, and my fellow colleagues, for your time since morning to participate in this important event. And definitely with the challenges we face nowadays, the biggest challenge in front of humanity is the climate change. And I believe we have the last chance to do something to safeguard our planet Earth from this climate change impacts. And I believe we are the last generation which can do something to provide a sustainable world to our further generations. So yes, that's correct time, and a great opportunity is there due to technological advances, as we are discussing green hydrogen since morning, and my fellow colleague Mr. Soni, as well as all other participants, has already paved the path for further discussions to deep down within the technical as well as collaborations and various other aspects related to green hydrogen. But let me share my thoughts. As since 2015, I am leading the company EcoFab Services, and we are majorly working for renewable power producers only. So far, we have assisted more than 15 gigawatt renewable power projects in India only. So one thing which I can add here is the green hydrogen, which we are going to produce through the renewable power projects, renewable energy. That's the concept, right? We are going to utilize the renewable energy, and that's why the hydrogen we are considering green. But I'm optimistic, but I would like to add here, still we use renewable energy. There are some impacts within the supply chain. For example, if we talk about the renewable power projects, such as solar, wind, as well as hydropower projects, if not cited properly, if a prior impact assessment and allocation of location is well defined, so there are chances this project may also pose negative impacts to environment, the community, as well as the ecosystem. So definitely we have to move ahead, and keeping the prospect of green hydrogen. As you can see, there are five identified uses, already identified applications from green hydrogen. And the most important factor for utilizing the green hydrogen is that we can abate difficult sectors as well with the green hydrogen. As you can see, the green hydrogen can be utilized for energy storage, replacing existing hydrogen feedstock within major greenhouse gas emitting industries. Green hydrogen can be utilized in fuel cell powered vehicles, can be blended with other fuels and alternative fuels which has low global warming potential can be produced from it. And at the same time, if we blend green hydrogen with other such as natural gas, so we can utilize it for heating, cooling, as well as various other applications. So considering the prospect, considering the end users possibility of green hydrogen, definitely we have to move ahead with the utilization of it. And as Bloomberg's report, Bloomberg NEF reports defines that if supported but piecemeal policy is in place, we estimate that 187 million metric tons of hydrogen could be in use by 2050, enough to meet 7% of projected final energy needs in a scenario where global warming is limited to 1.5 degrees centigrade. So yes, the options are there. The options are here, and technology is here. As we were discussing about the collaborations, so yes, Norway is well poised to support India in adoption of green hydrogen, and with the availability of renewable energy projects such as wind power projects, as well as solar power projects and various other hydropower projects. Yes, sufficient energy projections are there to support green hydrogen production in the market. So what exactly is the challenge? Why I'm saying that it's cannot be mentioned as an entirely green segment of energy? Because there are chances of environmental impacts, such as not only at the front end, definitely at the front end we are getting the green hydrogen, right? But within the supply chain also we have to look. Within the supply chain, there are possibility of emissions. Within the supply chain, there are resources to be utilized. Waste management related concerns can also be there, especially related to wind energy. Definitely, there may be a certain question in your mind when I ask the waste. So you may think, where we are seeing the waste? But just imagine after passage of the lifetime of wind power projects, if we are procuring the energy from wind power projects, we have to means huge amount of waste such as metal, FRP will be produced by wind turbines itself. So what we will do there, right? So supply chain consists certain risk related to environmental, health and safety, such as occupational health and safety risk, community who is residing close to the facility where we are going to deploy green hydrogen production plants. Whenever we transport green hydrogen from one place to another, we have to use the common resources such as roads, highways, So yes, the community is exposed to health and safety risk, and at the same time, community as well as social aspects related to stakeholders' rights, governance, how the company which is going to produce the green hydrogen will govern its own system. Is it taking care of the community, the workers, the external stakeholders? Are they disclosing the impacts associated with green hydrogen production related to transportation? So environmental, social, health and safety as well as governance risks are there. And from the end user perspective, definitely if end users have enough confidence from where the fuel is generated, the green hydrogen is generated, what exactly are the impacts, how the producer is managing those impacts, if they have enough confidence, because end user want to understand what sort of impacts they are producing, right? For example, whenever we book any tickets, the agency provides how much amount of greenhouse gases we are generating from this particular booking, right? So, however, these things looks very small, but yes, it makes a positive impact, positive influence within the end user's mind. So, the similar things we have to adopt in green hydrogen market as well. We have to do the prior impact assessment. We have to evaluate all the possibilities of harm, not only the negative impacts, but positive impacts as well. We have to detail and share with the stakeholders. Why I'm sharing this? Because since the morning we are discussing various aspects, but I have not heard at any point of time about the social impacts associated with green hydrogen, the major environmental impacts which may be included within the supply chain. So we don't have to overlook any aspect while developing any particular, especially a new technology. We have to look into both of these sides. Thereafter only we can do the sustainable development and can play a major role in fighting the climate change impact. So yes, the possibilities are there, the mechanisms are there, and if we do follow these mechanisms of identification of prior impacts, if we integrate the suitable measures, mitigation as well as preventive measures, yes, we can provide green hydrogen as a major fuel, especially like a country as ours, where the market is huge due to huge populations, government support is there. So I'm looking optimistic for green hydrogen adoption in India, and I wish good luck for Greensted for taking initiative in that particular segment. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity for discussion.
Thank you very much, Sanjay, for sharing your thoughts and views on the hydrogen supply chain.
Thank you.
You might either go back there, or if you would like to have a seat here, you can sit here as well.
All right, so what do you suggest?
I suggest you sit down, because then we will have a Q&A after the next speaker. Please allow me to introduce you to our third panelist. Her name is Liane Dreyer. Liane has 30 years of leadership experience from retail, tourism, recruitment, and administration with global companies. She has also worked with consulting firms and has been a business owner in Australia and Norway. Throughout her career, Liane has led businesses and developed teams with purpose of building complex concept strategies, product assortments, and destinational development. Through her work, companies and organizations have launched and marketed hundreds of private brands and end-user products in the Nordics, Europe, Asia, North America, and Australia Pacific, always with a strong focus on the consumer-centric experience. She will now talk on greener and better user experiences from Green Station. She represents Green Station. She's CEO of Green Station. We are looking forward to listening to you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Irina, for the opportunity to be here and speak at this prestigious event, and to the organizers of the International Climate Summit as well. Yes, I have been with Green Station now for nearly 9 months, and we have developed a pilot station which some of you will be visiting tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to showing you actually the station in real life. But firstly, Green Station is a company and a subsidiary company of Green Start. We were developed, recognised in 2017, and we started operations in a design thinking process in 2019. And like all of the companies of Green Start, we have a focus of making green happen. Now, many of you may know, Norway has ambitious goals. We have ambitious goals of 100% zero-emission passenger vehicles to be on the road by 2025. And in 2030, we have the ambitious goal also of 50% of heavy lorry traffic, new lorry traffic, to be on the road by 2030. And we are very much there. We are on the track, and actually we are a little bit ahead of track in Norway with passenger vehicles. In some communities and municipalities, we're up to between 80 and 90% already. There we are. Thank you. So what I'd like to tell you about is our Green Station and why Green Station is here. We believe that Green Station will represent the future type of energy station for consumers. And with a consumer-centric thinking, we believe that people want to feel safe, they want to have a feeling of being in a place that is comfortable, that is also green, that also has a type of technology that is easily understandable and easy to use. So we have developed Green Station both aesthetically, technology-wise, as well as infrastructure. So we look at all the aspects of it. And of course we want to take into all of the renewable areas of Green Start and what is happening around the renewable industries. So in addition to providing an opportunity for charging your, at this stage, electrical vehicle, you will be able to also draw power off from the grid as well as from other renewable energies. And eventually, we're hoping that this will be 100% zero emissions energy supplied into production and supplied into the distribution of energy via green stations. We are a charging station right now, but eventually we will also be providing opportunities for vehicles filling hydrogen. This is a major area of our business and the strategy that we will go forward with. So at this stage, what you will see tomorrow when you visit the station is a charging station for vehicles that are electric, battery electric. Some of you also may know that in Norway we have rather a confusing type of experience at this stage with charging your vehicles. There are over 10, 12 operators on the market. There are then 10 to 12 different types of apps, and there are one operator, ourselves, that is using a bank card solution where you just tap your card and charge. There's another operator that is now starting to introduce this, and this will be introduced, I am sure, by the others, but it is a solution that really everyone wants, but just one operator, ourselves, are now operating with. So often on weekends you'll see this type of confusion. People will be looking at apps, they'll be trying to work out how they're charging their cars, but as well there are a limited number of charging spots. So weekends you will see this, high holiday periods. The station itself that we've now piloted, which came through from a design perspective with a user in focus, is on the market now in just outside of Bergen. And the concept design, as you see in the bottom of the slide here, was the design that we came up with with feedback from the users. The design itself then materialized into this, and this is what you'll see tomorrow. So it is a commercialization of something that was very much based on the user feedback. And you'll see that the markings are very clear. You'll see that there's good lighting. You'll see that there's very large screens. You'll see that the pricing is very transparent, very clear, as well as, I'll come back to that, very fair. So all the way through, we've been thinking customer, tap and charge. Across the world, people use their bank cards, their credit cards. It's easy to use. Tap and charge. You have the option to have an app. It is not necessary. The station recognises your car, which is an automatic number plate recognition. It will then also direct you to the charging point, which is going to be compatible with your car. And when you are there, you will charge. You tap and it will charge you. The options for traffic also, if there are queues, there is a queue system. And from the screen, you will see very, very clearly the price. We've just introduced a dynamic pricing where the price is fluctuating in terms of the spot price market. So you will be charged in a fair, with a fair algorithm behind the price that you pay. And as you see on the tops of the roofs here, there are solar panels which will then provide extra power to the station, allowing us to either supply the station with lighting or, for instance, peak shave at high cost pricing periods. We believe that there's opportunity to have a green station anywhere. It can be in nature, it can be in urban areas. It can be combined quite easily in the type of scale that is required, but we do believe that it also needs to be locally adapted. So we will be looking at options of how to collaborate with local cooperative partners to add on services to allow our customers to be able to do something whilst the car is charging. And this is something that is really a focus area that customers have wanted, is how do I use my time when I'm charging my car? The scale up of a station is in modules, so you're able to scale it in terms of the number of charging points as well as the type of location that it will be at. So thinking of either suburban or highway, nature areas, including larger, for example, industrial areas. We have piloted with one station now, and we are rolling out with 4 new stations in 2022. And these stations will be both on the east coast, close to Oslo, as well as on the west coast around Bergen. We will be continuing the rollout in Norway to test each of the types of solutions that we're looking at, the type and the size of the stations. And then our ambitions are to roll internationally from next year. And of course we have some ambitious goals. National rollout throughout Norway will be around 20 to 30 stations, and then strong scaling with, hopefully with some collaborative partners globally. So I'm looking forward to welcoming you all. We have been the Electrical Vehicle Association of Norway has now told us that we are the most modern as well as the most user-friendly station in Norway, and we have been given national acclaim for this, and I will be able to share a video with you at a later stage that is giving us this accolation. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. May I please ask you to have a seat over there? This was very exciting to hear, and I'm sure that many of us who will join you for the on-site tour tomorrow are looking very much forward to see this, and I guess a lot of people would like to take pictures as well. We have a few minutes left before the break, and I have a few questions. Parul, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm very much there, and I was really excited to see the green station.
Right.
And I want to request her that if you are coming to India, I will be more than happy to, see how we can collaborate and work together to get more green stations to India.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so happy you're still with us, Parul, because I have a few questions for the three of you. And let me start with you, Parul. What is the Indian consumer's conscious level when it comes to hydrogen as transport fuel?
Yeah. So I think what is happening now, if you look at from the Indian perspective, one is that the knowledge from a layman's perspective is quite low, because when it comes to fuel, we started, if you look at more than 100 years, we used to use kerosene in India, and then we changed to other fuel methods and other things. Then CNG came in early 90s, and then, the whole chain as such. So when you, Reena, talk about hydrogen, one is the, awareness of layman or common people is very low. People don't understand. They always very afraid of something which is coming new. My thinking is, as I said, when we will start using the fuel, when we will have, people will see more, maybe buses, transport, and green stations like green stations in Norway, then people will start believing this as a more dependable fuel. And that's what I'm talking about from the fuel perspective, that, things will change. But as of now, yes, the awareness in India is very low. Globally, people are talking about industrialization through hydrogen and other things. But the thinking is that as the time will pass, I think we will be in a good position to change the narrative, change the way it looks like, and also bring that kind of use case which will bring the change for the world.
Then I would like to move over to you, Sanjay. Given what Parul just said, that it will take time in India and that it is a bit negative, don't you think sharing negative impacts of technology with end users, you gave us a very nice presentation showcasing 5 areas for end users, can pose risk to business growth?
Actually, where I presented, I have asked about sharing both of the impacts, right? Positive as well as negative. So by sharing this, we will make the overall fuel adoption transparent. By sharing negative impacts, they will know what exactly they are dealing with, what exactly will be the negative impacts the fuel may pose, or what exactly are the positive things they will get it by adoption of this particular fuel. So, in my thoughts, transparency cannot be considered as a negative aspect, negative cost. By making the things transparent, we will contribute in positive directions only.
Very, very good. Let's move to Norway then. Now we have been in India. We actually have Parul represented in India. Liana, I want to ask you, Norway is world famous for being the EV capital of the world. How fast, given that you already are rolling out Green Station, how fast do you think Norway will deliver on the hydrogen promises?
Well, I think that Norway is already delivering on hydrogen promises. I think that the continued transition from potential solutions into matured alternatives are already will need to happen and continue to happen. And like with Green Station, I think from an end user point of view, you need to have solutions where technology and cost development will be focused, because this is going to be the key to roll it out, as well as a seamless type of solution that consumers, whether they be commercial or whether they be private, are able to take on board quickly.
Very interesting. We have 2 minutes left, so I would like to go back to you, Sanjay, for the last question for this session.
All right.
How do you think governments and developers fast-track the green hydrogen shift? How can they fast-track it with the safeguard of the end user interests?
Exactly. You have mentioned it very correct. The safeguarding the interest of end users is should be the utmost urgency of governments as well as developers. So I believe there are definitely the collaboration is required between the industry as well as government. If they sit together, if both of the parties sit together and will drive about what should be the policy for green hydrogen projects development, what should be the disclosures requirement with the end users, and what type of risk impacts, hazards are involved within it, within the green hydrogen adoption, and how these impacts can be managed. So if we have answer to all of these two questions, and if we share this understanding with the end users, so I think definitely we can provide a speed within the adoption of green hydrogen from the end user side. And another thing which I would like to add about as you have mentioned earlier, about the impacts, is there chances sharing the impacts may pose a negative impact? So we all are living in the age of internet. We cannot hide anything in current scenario. So all the way, if even we are not sharing, end users will understand the overall scenario. They will identify it either from the primary information, either from the secondary sources. So I believe if we share the information firsthand, so definitely it will be an added advantage for governments as well as to developers to gain the confidence of end users from early stages.
Wonderful. We have now come to an end for the first part of this end user session. Now there will be a 20 minutes break, but we would like to see you all again in 20 minutes. And a big thank you to Parul Soni. I also would like you to stay connected. A big thank you to you, Liana, and a big thank you to Sanjay. After the break, we have 3 other prominent speakers with us who will present their companies and their business cases. And those guests are Mr. Harald Kleiven. He's Sales Director, Emerging Markets from Cambi Group. And we will also have with us Vibeke Rasmussen. She's Senior Vice Product Manager and Certification at Yara. And then we will have with us Mr. Bernhard Kroll, who is Project Direct Development in Trønder Energi. Everybody, have a nice break, and we'll see you again in 18 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so
Reena.
much, Reena. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for brilliant moderation, and also want to thank all my panelists because it's quite late in India, which I want to take a break. But thank you so much. It was a pleasure joining you, and I will see you in person very soon in Norway.
Thank you. Yeah. Cool. We're coming again. Okay, everyone, I hope you had a nice break, that those of you who are following us digitally had a nice cup of tea or coffee. I know it's late in India, so let's continue. And now we will have 3 more presentations Please allow me to welcome Harald Kleiven. He has 30 years experience from environment technology, waste to energy and water sectors, including 18 years with Cambi Group. He leads the development of thermal hydrolysis projects in emerging markets, including South America, India, and Africa. He holds a Master of Science degree on European Waste Management, Environmental Politics from London School of Economics and Political Science. Please, Harald, the stage is yours. You start your presentation, and we are very excited about listening to you and Cambi Group.
Thank you. Is this the right? Yeah. Thank you so much for this opportunity to present a different angle to the hydrogen issue. Today I will talk about how to make hydrogen and other products from waste. Waste in Norway in the 1990s in landfills constituted, according to Norwegian EPA, about 7% of our greenhouse gas emissions in the 90s. Then the EU decided, and Norway as well, to ban organic waste to landfills, and that came down towards 2-3%. And that's even when you take out landfill gas as a renewable source. So, Cambi is a company that was founded in 1996 with the first plant at Hias, at Norway's largest lake to treat sewage sludge. And it's basically a gigantic pressure cooker for food waste and other material and sludge before biogas extraction and producing also a biosolids product, and in the process eliminating all plant, animal, and human diseases, and also reducing odor. And that is the basis of our technology, and it's just illustrated here. To the left you will see sewage sludge which is not well treated. It stinks, it attracts flies, nobody wants to touch it, it's a nuisance. And to the right we'll find a product after treating it with a thermal hydrolysis process and subsequent anaerobic digestion. And this allows the volume of waste to be reduced tremendously, the quality to be improved, and I'll show an example of what that means in terms of money and environmental impact. So basically, thermal hydrolysis is at the nexus of different sectors: agriculture, energy, and waste management, and also local pollution abatement. So basically, by applying our technology, we kind of solve problems in all those sectors. And but our challenge is, of course, that just energy alone is not enough to finance advanced waste treatment. You need actually to be paid to solve a problem as well. And you may have to be paid to reduce greenhouse gas emissions or to reduce a local pollution. We have built, over these years, since the first plant at Hias in 1996, we built 81 plants around the world in 25 countries, treating sewage sludge and food waste, mostly sewage sludge, from more than 100 million people, and mitigating 1.1 million tons of CO2 compared to what they did before. And the green markets you see, including India, are now the most promising markets we look at. And now I will tell you how this relates to hydrogen, and by quoting a CEO of a climate fund established by the Minister of Trade in 2017, Siri Kalvik, who says that a not very well-known possibility is to achieve negative emissions of CO2 by producing biogas and splitting it into hydrogen and hydrogen and carbon, and storing the carbon or using the carbon as green carbon. And then because biogas is a renewable fuel to start with, so if you can then take out the carbon and store it or use it for something else, you can actually reduce, you can have a negative impact. These are some of the headlines NRA, it's a plant outside Oslo, we building a biogas plant. They're going to convert their biogas to hydrogen. And also you have a zero emission project in Wales with one of our plants that have a big grant to reduce or convert the biogas to hydrogen and carbon. And they actually, at the NRA, they call it red hydrogen. So that's a new color for, not on the map yet, but that's a negative impact hydrogen. And what kind of ton of waste in India produce, according to Sea Ganga, which is advisory committee for Namami Ganges, it's 1 ton of waste could produce 100 kilos of green hydrogen or 1,000 kilometers of bus journey. Again, I'm not an expert on that, but these are the things that we need to find out, we need to measure. Just to show you what we do on a big scale, this is our biggest plant in the UK. The thermal hydrolysis plant is circled there. It pre-treats sludge for these 8 digesters. These are the anaerobic digesters to the right. And these are 8,000 cubic meter each. And before THP, or the process we had, after the THP, they process 2.5 times as much sludge through the same digesters, or producing more than 3 times the energy, and 10 megawatt electricity, and also the heat for the process. That's just to show the size of this project. This is Washington, D.C., where you see our biggest plant in the U.S. was installed in 2014. These are the digesters to the left, and the THP plant pressure cooking the sludge, again saving them $200 million in construction cost. And this is another picture, and the headlines in Washington Post after we installed the project. It was also launched on Times Square in New York. Now, the key for Washington, D.C., here is the mayor of Washington, D.C. opening the plant, and she has a product that doesn't stink. It's now a fertilizer, and they even brand it. And what happened is that they cut their operating costs from about $20 million a year to about $5 million, so $15 million a year. Now, while mitigating 70,000 tons of CO2 emissions, so the CO2 emission reduction was for free. Now, that's also because it costs money to treat waste in America. Now, in India, this alternative cost of treatment needs to be established. But there's another benefit. This is a picture we got from Washington, D.C. that shows an agriculture area that actually had sewage sludge compost applied on the bottom part, and it retains humidity much better than the other. So the other has only chemical fertilizer. You see the color difference of the 2 areas. And basically, this goes very well with another Indian prominent guru who took his motorbike from London to India to tell everyone that you need to save the soil. And this is a big movement in India, and the carbon content of soil is going lower and lower, and if it goes beyond a certain point, you actually get deserts. So this recycling organics back to land has many things that are not yet put financial value to, but should have. This is just showing that you can use our method for other materials. This is the food waste, all source separated food waste in Oslo, the capital of Norway, is source separated and delivered to this plant, which we built turnkey with the biggest EPC contractor as a subcontractor in Norway. That was, but this one produces biogas for 130 buses and fertilizer. But imagine in India if you could also take the straw that's currently polluting Delhi, that's burned around Delhi, the millions of tons of straw, and you could actually steam explode it and make biogas and fertilizer from it, avoiding the air pollution. So you take that wider circle of benefits, and you will find that the financing should be a no-brainer. But the problem is the narrow focus on financing. And then if you add the climate financing, we are treating 6,000 tons of sludge per day in 5 plants in Beijing. And that was against all odds. We got that, and the Prime Minister of Norway opened our first plant in 2016. And compared to the plant incineration, we saved them 400,000 tons of CO2 emissions per year. measured by others, but it didn't pay the project. The project was paid because it was more economical. So basically, what we want to know now is we are looking to develop projects in India, currently with municipal sector that are financing with World Bank money or Asian Development Bank and so on, but they're all asking for long-term operations. Now we see Namami Ganges is inviting for PPP projects. We would like to cross the boundary into waste, do coal digestion project, produce hydrogen and biogas from multiple types of waste. And then we are planning, we had a competition with, and ended up choosing to work with TERI Institute to establish a Center of Excellence for Organic Waste to Wealth, which now we're trying to establish and find a funding for, where the experts can meet and do two things. Number one, measure what is the real situation on the ground, how much quantity, quality, and what's the pollution situation really, because they don't know. Now, it was 7% of greenhouse gases in Norway in the 90s. Imagine if 10% of all greenhouse gases emissions in India is from unmitigated methane released from landfill. Should we tap it, and shouldn't that have a value? So maybe this can then, if we establish the science, we can do climate financing or these kind of projects before the assembly or you pass the regulation to ban organic waste to landfill. That's my son. That was in 2013. He is now 9 years old. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much, Harald. Our next speaker is also a gentleman. His name is Bernhard Kvål. Bernhard Kvål represents Trønder Energy, and he's also assisting me here today, as you can see. So this is the same man who will hold the presentation. Kvål has extensive experience in different fields in the renewable energy industry, such as market analysis, hydropower, wind power, solar power, hydrogen and development projects in the Norwegian power market. He has been heading the EU project Remote, which is aimed to show that hydrogen can be used as a medium for energy storage in microgrids. Remote was awarded for being the most innovative energy project during EU's Sustainable Week in 2020. And last year, in fact, Mr. Kvål was awarded the Hydrogen Prize from the Norwegian Hydrogen Forum. Bernhard Kvål, the floor is yours. We are very excited to listen to you, Mr. Hydrogen.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. First of all, I'd like to say some few words about our company, Trønder Energi. We are a medium-sized power company in Norway, located in Trondheim, and most of our activities are in mid-Norway. In the base for the company is hydropower. We have had that for 70 years, but in the last 10 years we have built a lot of wind power, wind farm, and I think we are the second largest in Norway now after Statkraft. And in addition, we have now started with downstream activities. That is, for instance, charging system for electrical vehicles. It is energy system for grocery stores. We have delivered batteries to construction sites and so on. This is expanding very much now. We will soon shift our name to Aneo and will get a Norwegian equity fund, High-Tech Vision, with us, and we will build a much bigger company and be a Nordic energy company in some years. So we believe in a very strong future for our activity. This photo is from one of the 5 hydrogen hubs in Norway that Enova has financed. But before I say more about that, I will say a few words about Norway when it comes to energy and to climate change. It is so that Norway produces all electricity from renewables, and through hydropower, through wind power and some PV. This leads to that we have a very high share of renewables in the total energy consumption in Norway. But still, in accordance to the Paris Agreement from 2015 and in accordance with EU, we have to still do as much as other countries. And that leads to we need to do a lot of things within transportation and within industry, like fertilizer, which will be mentioned later, and by steel production. But I will say a bit more about transportation. Norway is a leading country when it comes to passenger cars and electrical cars. More than 80% of new cars are either battery cars, more than 60%, and more than 20% is hybrid cars. That is very almost spectacular in the world, but it has to do with taxes and also a bit with conscience among people. But what we haven't done is to do things within heavy vehicles and within boats and ships. We are a large maritime sector, and we have a lot of possibility to do something there. And we need to do it because we cannot do anything within the electricity production because it's clean. So it said that we have to move 10 times faster within the transportation sector to make it renewable than other countries. So what we do now is to look into the possibilities to produce hydrogen, and for both the boats and ships along the coast, and also for all the trucks. We have I said we have a very large maritime sector, and that is due to, among other things, the aquaculture and the production of fish for export. I think we export then more than 100 billion Norwegian crown each year within this sector, and a lot of boats, there's a lot of transport, and there is a lot of possibilities to do things there. So that is the reason we applied for this hydrogen hub at the coast of Trøndelag, mid-Norway, and we got the funding, and within some months we have to take a decision about investment. This we do together with Statkraft, which is the largest renewable company in Europe. So hopefully we will come further with this project. It's very interesting, and still I think Norway has to do a lot more. We are moving, as we heard from Bjerknes earlier today, there is very urgent to do more, so we need to do even more than what is done so far. We need more initiatives from the government and others to reach the goal. One other thing I like to mention is what Rena said about this EU project Remote, which that project exists in 3 places in Europe. One of the places is managed by Trønderenergi at Rye, outside Trondheim city, and we have fulfilled the project, and it succeeded. What we did was to use wind power that produce most in the wintertime in Norway, combined with the PV, and with these renewable sources, we loaded a battery, and we produced hydrogen through an electrolyzer, and stored it in a tank, as you see to the right. And when there wasn't any production of energy, we could take from the hydrogen tank and through fuel cell produce electricity. We decoupled this from the grid. It was an off-grid project, and we ran it for 1 year. And we had some problem in the start with obtaining the right quality through frequencies and voltage, but we managed at last, and it functioned very well. We think there is a clear future for hydrogen as an energy storage. We have proved that, and there is many places we could use this solution, both in Norway and other places in Europe. In Norway, it's typical islands where you have a very expensive sea cable that need to be replaced. Instead of do this replacement, we could establish this kind of system out in an island. and also in other areas, maybe also within cities where you have a threshold in the grid daytime. It could be cheaper to use such a system than expensive reinforcement of the grid. So there is a lot of possibilities, we think, here for hydrogen in the future. I think that is the main point I make now, and could come back with the question later on.
Thank you so much, Bernhard. Our next speaker is from Yara. Please allow me to welcome Vibeke Rasmussen. Rasmussen has been with Yara since 2014, and she has been working with R&D, environmental, NPK, and product quality prior to joining the newly developed Yara Clean Ammonia unit. This unit is set up to capture growth opportunities in emission-free fuel for shipping and power, carbon-free food production, and ammonia for industrial applications. This was established in January 2022, this year. Prior to Yara, Vibeke has held management positions within the water and wastewater industry, and she holds a master's degree in civil engineering from NTNU and an MBA from University of Lincoln. Rasmussen will talk on ammonia enabling the hydrogen value chain. Please, Vibeke.
Thank you, Rina, and thank you for being able to present here today. I will go through ammonia as part of the hydrogen economy or the hydrogen value chain. I come from Yara, which is a big global fertilizer company. And today, fertilizer is actually the utilization of about 80% of ammonia being produced in the world today. The last 20% goes to other industrial products and offerings. As the fertilizer industry, we are then also probably one of the largest producers of hydrogen today. And in Yara, we actually produce 8.5 million tons of ammonia per year. We are actually present in 160 different countries with fertilizer products. And as Rina said, last year we established, what's happening here? Then it's back. Can you see? Yes. Yara last year actually established the Clean Ammonia unit, which the aim is also fertilizer is a hard to decarbonize industry. So in addition to decarbonizing Yara's own production units, we also see that clean ammonia has several other possibilities to decarbonize, hard to decarbonize industries. And Yara today also being a producer and also a midstream company with supply and transport and trade of ammonia, we think that we are well positioned to also be part of the growth in the clean ammonia. With the potential to decarbonize then shipping industry, which needs new fuels to decarbonize, agriculture, as we stated, the fertilizer, power generation, especially where you have countries with unfavorable renewable conditions, you can actually then use ammonia to co-fire power stations. And the long-term potential as a hydrogen energy carrier, because ammonia is probably a more efficient energy carrier than hydrogen for long transportation and storage. One of the main reasons for saying that ammonia is actually a better hydrogen energy carrier is because it is not needed to be liquefied at very, very low temperatures. It's at minus 33 degrees in comparison to 250 degrees minus for hydrogen. It is also volume-wise, it's double the energy content. So for especially long sea transport, it's less volumes that you need to transport as an energy carrier. We have seen and heard earlier today that there is a significant growth potential in clean ammonia. As you see, the orange bars here, and especially the 184, is today's production of ammonia worldwide. That is obviously expected to grow steadily with the users today just due to population growth. But in addition, it's expected that we will have double the need for ammonia within 2050 for new users of clean ammonia. And that is especially for the shipping industry to decarbonize, it's for power industry and other uses of clean ammonia. So why is Yara so well positioned? And we say that we have a global end-to-end position. We have production sites of ammonia due to our fertilizer production worldwide. We are a trader and a transporter of ammonia today. We have then 18 different storage or ammonia terminals. We have 11 transport or ammonia ships. So we have today 580 kilotons of ammonia storage capacity, and connecting that with future growth in turning ammonia to blue and green. Ammonia obviously follows the hydrogen notions in terms of blue and green. So blue is producing ammonia with steam, methane reforming as we do today on the hydrogen, and then capturing the CO2 and storing it. Green ammonia is produced then with electrolyzers at the front end, and then ammonia synthesizers as today in the back end. Or new technologies that we might come in the future. We have already green production projects ongoing. We have one in Norway which is under construction to be producing green ammonia next year. And we have also production of a pilot production site on the way in Australia. In addition to that, we are going to turn some of our existing ammonia production sites into blue ammonia, which was also mentioned earlier today, is the MOU that we have now signed with Northern Lights, that we will take CO2 liquefied from our site in the Netherlands, which will be permanently stored then in Longship in Norway. So our current projects that are underway is amounting up to about 2.5 million tons of ammonia by 2030. 2,000 kilotons will be blue ammonia, low carbon ammonia, and about 500,000 kilotons of green ammonia by 2030. We think that we are in a unique position, of course, with the existing over 100 years of experience with producing ammonia. We've heard about the Glomfjord plant today, which turned off the last electrolyzers in the beginning of the 90s. We still have one or two people that remember those plants working in the Glomfjord fertilizer plant. So we have done it previously in the history. We have the experience with ammonia, with trading, shipping, storing ammonia, and we will do it again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vibeke. May I please ask you to take a seat here? And I would also like to invite Mr. Bernhard Kvål from Trønder Energy to be part of the panel discussion, and Mr. Harald Kleiven from Cambi Group. I have a few questions for you. Let's make sure you all get a mic. You all three of you held very engaging and interesting presentation. I don't know what you viewers think, but I was thinking all these companies seems great place to work with such exciting projects as you are having. Harald, I would like to start with you. You were talking about being planet positive, values beyond finance. Companies are in the forefront of the green shift. How can companies deliver on their promises?
Well, in many ways, I guess, but what I've seen from my experience is companies both have internal processes to go carbon neutral, which is happening in many companies. For example, you have car manufacturers that want to go net zero by 2050 and already trying to promote or produce their cars with renewable energy instead of. So, for example, there's a company, BMW in South Africa, is using biogas to produce their electricity, and so are the others. So that's one example, internal processes to make yourself better. Now the other is the services you provide. So the same car manufacturer could now provide fuel cell cars instead of fossil fuel cars. So the product and services that the companies provide should go greener. So that is, of course, in our case, we are providing biogas plants, so we are per definition green, but can we make it even greener by converting the biogas to hydrogen and solid carbon or CO2 and store the CO2 or solid carbon and then go negative on the carbon? So red hydrogen. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, interesting. Let's then go over to you, Vibeke, and make it even more greener, maybe, if it's possible. What would you say are the key drivers for clean ammonia?
Yeah, I think, as we've heard earlier today also, the world needs to decarbonize. If we're going to meet the Paris Agreement, that is an overall need. And I think a lot of companies, as Harald also said, is actually pledging now to take moves and do the necessary steps to decarbonize. But also we need, of course, the demand. And for demand to happen also is the end users that needs to be, so raising awareness of the end user, I would say the power that we actually have in predicting on what we would buy, and consciousness of the products that we actually buy as end users are also very, very important. To drive the demand also, I would say that we need clear and predictable policies and regulations for investments in this to happen. You need to know what the long-term regulations are going to be. We need incentives, tax incentives, sort of things. We need clear carbon taxes and fair taxes to have a level playing field. So there is a lot of things that needs to be in place and to drive this. And as an end user, I know it's probably a simplified example, but also there has been done examples of if you, for instance, were shipping Nike shoes with decarbonized fuel, it would only add a few cents, to the price of the shoes. So it's all these awareness of how much and the whole value chain really needs to take work together to get the cost down.
Yeah, we've heard again and again, over again today, that it's important to have policies in place, incentives in place. So then I would like to go back to you, Mr. Kvål. What are the technical obstacles to using hydrogen?
I think it was already mentioned, we need rules, help from the government, help from the bodies that make the rules for this, for hydrogen production and the use of hydrogen, because it's some hazard, it's some danger with using it, and we still miss some of these rules from Sjöfartsdirektorat or DSB and other bodies that are necessary. And I think they also have some lack of resources to do so. So that is very important to speed up the transition we really need to meet the Paris Agreement and the reduction of emission in Norway. Norway have a great problem to reach this goal. So that is one thing, and other thing is, of course, hydrogen is expensive to produce, but we also see that there is a lot of development now that will make it cheaper, and so both the technical and economical issues is something, and we need clear policy, clear rules, maybe taxes, maybe almost orders from the government to make this shift happen much faster than we have today.
Yeah. In the previous session, we had with Mr. Parul Soni, and we also had with us Sanjay Sharma and Liane Dreyer. Parul was talking about responsible consumers and industry, how to generate a market demand, and we had Mr. Sharma talking about the green hydrogen supply chain. So Harald, if we look at the consumers, we also see that the consumers are driving this change, this need and urge for a greener and a safer environment. How can the consumers' expectations be met?
Well, as a consumer myself, I would go for the cheapest and safest. So I think price is everything. So actually, that the energy price in Norway is 5 to 10 times what it used to be. It's very disruptive to a lot of families, but it's also an encouragement to save. So maybe the future will have more energy efficient houses, energy efficient vehicles, and energy efficient appliances. You know, if you buy a high quality washing machine, it could use 1/5 of the energy of a low quality. So we're not buying energy, we're buying a service that energy brings. So maybe the companies could start providing service instead of just electricity. But from a consumer perspective, I think we shouldn't also underestimate the young generation wanting to change and the willingness for people to actually pay a little bit more for a greener option. So I think if that's proven that I could go and buy wind energy generated electricity, I could pay a little bit more for that. I mean, I'm already paying too much, but I'm saying that you shouldn't underestimate that. But that has not been offered to me by any of the energy companies yet in Norway. Trønderenergi. Right? Sell me some solar, and I'll buy more. I pay more.
I think you're absolutely right that the youngsters, the young people are driving this change as well. I have kids, I guess most of the people in this room have children, and my kids are at least pushing me a lot. Then I would like to go back to you, actually Vibeke, because we are talking about the consumer perspective. And I would like to take the consumer perspective more over to the commercial perspective. What is needed for clean ammonia to become commercially viable?
Yeah, and I think it's been mentioned several times today. Today the price is an obstacle. We know that there are ambitions, we've heard it from India, we've heard it from the US, to produce hydrogen at $1 per kilo. So we know that the ambition is there, and what is it going to take then to get there? And I think in history shows us that technology always as an infant in its life cycle is more expensive. We need scale, and the belief is then if we can get the price down, if we can get the consciousness, the willingness to pay a little more for green up, I think we will be able to close that gap.
Yeah. And in the previous session, we heard Liane Dreyer, who is CEO for Green Station, talking about Norway, and even you, Kroll, touched up on Norway being world leading when it comes to EV cars. So then we all have to look at the hydrogen versus batteries, because that's also another discussion. In what ways do you think, Mr. Kroll, that hydrogen compete with batteries?
I think it's there is a competition between batteries and hydrogen, but we also, as mentioned earlier, some places in some sector it's better to use hydrogen because it's battery is very heavy. So when you come to heavy and long transport on trucks and boats, you need to go to hydrogen, and also for boats you need ammonia because it's already told that it's more the high density and of energy, and of course this the liquidation temperature. But there is I think some misunderstanding, because we think that batteries is a lot more energy efficient than hydrogen. But maybe the gap is not so large or so big as we think. You often say that batteries have an efficiency of 90%, but we have used battery containers in our grid, and we see that it could come down below 70% in efficiency when you use it, not able to use it in a theoretical right way. And in addition, I could mention, when it comes to hydrogen, we have this Norwegian company, Hystar, that now produce electrolyzer that is almost 10% better than other electrolyzers in efficiency. And if you, in addition for hydrogen, is able to use the heat from the electrolyzer, the heat from fuel cell, I think the gap is not very big anymore. So that is something, been a truth, that the gap is so enormous, but I do not think that is the reality.
I think that's good news for all of us who are listening to you. I would like to invite Mr. Sanjay and Liane back to the panel. So you have to share the mic with Mr. Kvål, if he's allowing you to share it. Yes, he is. I have a question for you, Mr. Sharma. How can green hydrogen economy become scalable and feasible to cater the demand of the masses in India?
So, as you are well aware, India has huge population, and in developing phase especially, and in developing phase itself, you have to do lots of industrialization. The transport sector is also huge. Likewise, the emissions, because for industrial growth, we have to use the readily available fuels, which is majorly the conventional fuels at that moment within the India. And as Mr. Modi government, our Prime Minister, is very much commitment to go towards the renewable energy economy and to reduce and cut down the emissions to the greater level. So I believe green hydrogen is well poised, and at the same time, due to availability of renewable energy sources and huge other potential, we already have a great number of renewable power projects in India, and enough irradiation for solar power generation, as well as locations, high wind possible locations for generation of electricity from wind power projects. So in that way, we have all the resources in there. We have clear visibility of our leadership to move towards the cleaner and greener economy. And at the same time, the green hydrogen technology is evolving, as my colleagues have told. Still green hydrogen is not that much viable, but I believe, like we have seen in years, like the mobiles technology, whenever the technology, whenever there are improvements within the technology, and whenever a market is set up, the cost start decreasing to further level. So considering that aspects, the availability of resources, the clear visibility of the government, as well as the awareness of the population of India, I think India is well poised to see a further growth in green hydrogen market in coming years.
Then I would like to ask Liane my last question before we wind up. We have 1 minute left for this conference. Liane, now we've heard Mr. Sanjay talk about India and given us the perspective seen from India. And let's move back to Norway. What do you think that the Norwegian government need to do to reach the goals by 2030?
Well, I think there's many things that we can do. And I think that we really need to have a broad scope on it. And I think this panel represents a very broad scope. I think there has to be a combination of battery electric, hydrogen, biogas, ammonia. I think infrastructure is really, really important. Logistic solutions as well. And a concentration also on technology development and cost. So the combination of governments and collaboration across borders, as well as for development, is really important, and I think that goes for both Norway and the rest of the world.
Yeah, and that is a beautiful way of ending this session, because this is what the International Climate Summit is all about: coming together, physical and digitally, mingle, get knowledge, get insight, get to know companies, see how we can collaborate on policy level, on national level, and also on business to business level. Today we have listened to many ministers. We have had Mr. Vestre, Espen Barth Eide, our very own environment minister, and Gadkari from India. We have had the pleasure of listening to Shri Ravi Shankar. And I'm, of course, very honored that I had this stellar panel with me for my parallel session. A big thank you to you, Liane, to you, Sanjay, to you, Bernhard, to you, Vibeke, and to you, Harald. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are now ending this parallel session on hydrogen end users. Thank you to all of you who have been watching us.